So this talk is about creativity, consistency, and usability. And specifically, it's for game artists, but I realize there's other people listening and watching this. So it's okay if you're not game art. Some of this will apply to you. Most will probably apply to you. So a little bit about myself. My name is Jeff Parrott. I'm course director for texture painting and sculpting class in the game art degree program here at Full Sail. And also a freelance environment artist, full-time freelance environment artist in the video game industry. I've worked over 8 years or something professionally in the game industry. My portfolio is environmentartist.com, and I'm using this as my experience with my website and sort of my brand as the backbone for this talk. So, and by no means am I saying like my way is the only way to do it. I'm just saying it's a way, and it might give you some ideas. You might take a few things from this that will benefit you in your journey. So what's branding? Can anybody tell me what branding is?
Marketing for yourself.
Marketing for yourself. That's actually a really good answer. Yeah, it's pretty close. Webster Dictionary defines it as promoting of a product or service by identifying it with a particular brand. So it's marketing yourself. You guys, what are you marketing? Well, you're not marketing yourself. You're marketing your art, your creativity, your expression of your creativity through your artwork. So you have to keep that in mind when you're creating your portfolio, when you're creating your web presence, is that you're marketing yourself. What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself going in your career? And that's really the thing you have to remember as you're developing your stuff and as you're not only creating your art, but creating your website, creating your brand, your imagery, all that stuff. It needs to reflect what you want to do. If it's not reflecting what you want to do, then you're just doing it to do it. And you're going to find it's really shallow when you do things like that. So let's talk about a few facts. Job competition's pretty high. There's not a lot of jobs, and there's a lot of people. So that's pretty tough. And we live in an instantly digital age. And what I mean by that is you can go on your phone, you can walk out in the hall, type in my website, and, oh, this is what he's talking about. Or you can do something like that instantly. I check my news when I'm walking from my car into the lecture room, usually, or into my office. I'll just be on my phone flipping, through Twitter or something, and, oh, that's what's going on. We live in a world like that. When you apply at a company, you're going to get Googled or search engined. You're going to get, people are going to just see what comes up. It's going to happen. That's the type of age we live in. I know of stories of that happening all the time. So keep that in mind, and we'll talk about that a little later. Also, the computer, software, tablet that you guys have access to, all that stuff, it's yours. It doesn't expire after graduation. It doesn't disappear. The laptop is yours. It's the stuff that you need to create your artwork. Continue creating your artwork and developing your skills. So please keep that in mind. Don't rest on what you've made. Always look for the next thing that you're going to do. So again, you are your own brand. You have to be in the market of selling yourself, in the business of selling yourself. That is one of the most important things that you can do. You need to make yourself marketable and appealing, your artwork marketable and appealing. What looks good? How do I make it look good? All that kind of stuff. You need to think about that. What are employers going to be looking for? If you want to apply to a certain company that does a certain type of game style, well, you probably should do artwork that falls in line with their art style. You probably shouldn't do something that's completely different. And how do you do that? Well, there's a few different things you can do to create your own brand. One of the first things is creativity. And the game industry is a very creative industry. It's actually, one of the main pillars of this industry, which is fantastic. And that's probably why a lot of you are drawn to this industry, because it is so creative. And you want to use that to your advantage. I've heard stories of people creating their websites like in a scroll, or their resumes in a scroll, and sending it to the developer in like a little prop or tube or something like that. There's a classic story of a guy that wanted a job at a certain game company, and so he went to the game company. He apparently lived driving distance, hopefully, and dressed up in stormtrooper outfit and stood outside their front door and passed out his business card as he went in the office, or everyone went in the office. He didn't work there. He was trying to work there. And that connected him with everybody knew him as the stormtrooper guy. And it's kind of like a legendary story now in the industry from that happening. The guy works at that company. He's been working there for 10 years now. His artwork was good, though. And that's the other thing, is his work was phenomenal, and he also knew how to market himself and set himself apart. So it's something you have to kind of think about that. Be creative as you're doing this, but you got to be careful about doing over-the-top stuff. If that stormtrooper guy would have sat there for a week straight, well, he probably would have been talking to the police. And that's something that you want to make sure you don't cross the line. And where's the line? You try to figure that out with experience. The more you do this, the more you'll figure out where that line is. And again, this is a creative industry. We're in a very, very creative industry, and that's, again, why I'm drawn to it, why probably a lot of you are drawn to it. You got to be careful of that line. Know where the line is, learn where it is. Companies don't want to hire a robot. They're going to look at your Facebook profile, most likely. You have to assume they're going to, or whatever social media profile you're on. They're probably going to look at it. They'll find it on some search engine. So you got to keep that in mind. If there's inappropriate pictures, inappropriate comments, you probably want to limit that stuff. But at the same time, you also don't have to be a robot. They want to hire a person. So you need to be somewhere in between. I wrote down, you don't have to be the guy that saws off the cubicle divider. I worked at a company, and we moved into brand new offices, and one of the other guys, an artist in another department, came over and, oh, you guys have a nice cubicle here. And he was building a shelf for his books and stuff on his desk, and he had a saw with him, and he just started sawing one of the walls. And I said, what in the world are you doing? And he kind of looked at his hand and said, I have no idea. And it was only like cubicle dividers about up to here, but he sawed off a big corner of it. It's still there. So that's something, don't be that guy, It's actually funny, I was telling my wife about this story, and he works at a really big developer now, and she said, well, maybe you do have to be that guy. You got to be that good if you're going to be that guy. I would recommend not being that guy. So you have to learn where that line is, and that's the same with your comments and stuff like that on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. If a game comes out and you don't like it, you don't have to tell everybody. You can find, oh, I played this game and the character art's really good. You don't have to say that the levels are the worst looking levels you've ever seen in your life, or the lighting is horrible. You can play up the positive stuff, or it's not really my thing, but I can see why people like it. Because if you ever apply to that company and they'll go, oh, you didn't like this game and this game and this game that we made, why do you want to work here? So you got to keep that stuff in mind. Just think that everybody's going to see what's out there, all your stuff. And you want to be unique. You want to set yourself apart, but not too unique. Again, this is another thing where you need to tread very lightly. And I think people don't want to see like a template example of something, but they also don't want to see something that is too confusing. And so you've got to kind of stay in the middle somewhere. I think that's really the good area to be in. And think about a clever hook or style. Again, if maybe you want to work at a place that solely does fantasy-style games, then maybe do your website up in a fantasy-style, piece. Maybe you've got a wooden board hanging up your name.com or whatever your website is, things like that. If you want to work at a sci-fi place, maybe make your website feel a little more sci-fi. Theme it to the style that you want to do. Or if you have a unique name, I was telling a few people about this earlier in the week. If your name is Joe Ice Cream, name it Ice Cream Art, and that works good. It can be a guy screaming, and it'll say Ice Cream Art. It'll be a play on words. You can do things like that and be creative like that. And again, you don't want to be too unique. I've got a friend, and I bring this up all the time. His name is Ben Mathis. He's worked about 12 years in the game, film, movie industry. Does anyone know who Ben Mathis is? Show of hands. Exactly. His website name is poopinmymouth.com. You won't forget it, ever. But he's that good. If everybody tries to do that, it doesn't work. His website is instantly rememberable. I can't forget it. I wish I could. It's one of those. But I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, I'm friends with Ben. And he said, Ben who? And I said, Poop. Oh, yes, I love his stuff. Everybody, connects him through his site, and that's fantastic. And you need to find some hook like that, but maybe not that one. You want to be really careful with that stuff. Also, don't be afraid to iterate. That's something that all the successful video games do in this industry is they iterate. Work on something, it's not good enough. Throw it out. Or we can make it better, throw it out and restart it. Some games end up in development for a long time. That's one of the reasons, And what you end up with is better stuff. Usually with me, the third time I do something, it's usually the best time. It takes me about 3 times, whether I'm working on a professional, video game, working with clients or something, I'll send it to them. No, we don't like it. I'll fix it. No, we don't like it. I'll fix it again, send it back to them. Yes, it's perfect. This is lovely. And it could be minute changes, but you have to not be afraid, or it could be large changes. I've thrown out stuff before, completely redid it. I've redesigned my website over the past 10 years about 12 times, and that's kind of a constant thing. And I'm not looking for work aside from freelance work, so I just like to keep iterating on it, keep making it better. And you need to have that approach. Treat it like a garden or something. You have to keep it the weeds and keep just everything looking nice. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. And I don't want you to do something and, I spend a week on this and developing my site or putting my work together, making it look nice, and someone goes, it doesn't look good, or you hear a few people saying it doesn't look good. Well, maybe you need to iterate on it, and maybe you need to change it up. How can you change it up? And don't be afraid to throw it out and start over. Also, don't use templates. Isn't this yes, these slides are templates, actually. So, but you shouldn't do it for anything other than slides. You can do it for slides. Online blog sites are fantastic. Tumblr, WordPresses, all that stuff. Those work really good for portfolios, but don't use the default template, because I guarantee you companies see that a lot. And what it's going to do, your artwork may be really fantastic, maybe better than everyone else that has that default template, but they're going to get it confused with those guys or those people that don't have as good of artwork and have that default template. So you want to set yourself apart. Change the colors up. Maybe your colors is a unique color scheme you came up with. Then use that in your site design. I realize some of these you can't customize as much as others, but I know a lot of artists now that are using this Tumblr website, and that seems like you can do an insane amount of themes, and it's all there, your work's all there. So look into stuff like that. Figure out how you can grab a theme and kind of change it around and tweak it around. I always recommend looking at artists' sites that you like and try to emulate, not copy, but maybe emulate and pull pieces from 6 other things. You want to treat it like a game. Games nowadays, they say, oh, it's like this, but with this and a dash of this. You want to think about it like that. It's like this guy's website, but with the colors of this one and the design, and everything kind of mashed together. Also, if my mom can customize a website, there is no reason that you all shouldn't be customizing a website. Because I don't know if she knows what a mouse is. She's just got a laptop, so she thinks it's the clicky thing on the center. Clicky square, I think she calls it. So you need to be able to customize a website. It's surprisingly easy. If I can do it, which I customized a WordPress blog at one point, you guys can do it, because I don't know that much stuff about this, technical stuff. You also want to avoid slow sites. I realize that sometimes Amazon web hosting or Google web hosting or something like that may go down. Well, probably larger corporations than you, larger brands than you, are going to be going down as well. So that's okay. But what you want to avoid are very slow, extremely slow load times, extremely slow sites. If you go there consistently, if your friends, you send it around to your friends and they say, it doesn't load. Oh, finally it loaded. Maybe look into something else that's a little faster. Everything's getting a little better at this day and age, but that's still something that you want to make sure that you're staying pretty quick. Million animated GIFs. I tried to get them all in here, but it didn't work. It crashed. Nope, don't do it. That was really cool in '98, long time ago. You don't want to do that kind of stuff. You don't want to overcomplicate your website. Keep it simple. Consistency is another big pillar that we need to work on. And, again, we're in an instantly searchable world. If you want a job as a character artist, Google character artist. See what comes up. Well, there's probably going to be job listings. There's probably going to be portfolio websites. Look at those too. What do the job listings say? What are they looking for in skills and in the work, and what should the portfolio show? And then the other thing would be the portfolios. What portfolios come up? What's in the portfolios? What, is it character busts, full characters, in-games, textures? What are we looking at? What are they shown in? What engine? Are they shown, using Marmoset Toolbag or UDK or some Unity or something? Or is it out of 3D software? So you need to look into that stuff and make sure you're searching everything. You also want to make sure that the user experience is similar across all platforms. So if you're on Twitter or Tumblr and you have your own site as well, people connect those two up and don't think it's a different Joe Smith. It's the same Joe Smith. Maybe it's an avatar, or maybe it's a color scheme, maybe it's the work. But you want to make sure you figure out how to keep that consistent to the viewer across the board. And watermarks is another good example. So watermarks, logos, all that stuff. And your professionalism, too. Because the way you write emails to a company, cover letters, the way you write your resume will most likely come across as the same guy that's on Twitter or writing the comments on Facebook or something like that, or whatever social media website. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that stuff consistent and professional. Make sure, speak in full sentences. I'll talk about that more in a second. Search yourself, again, this is really important. Search your dream job, search your dream role at that company. Go to the company's website, see what they're hiring for, see what they're looking for. Keep that stuff in mind as you're creating your portfolio, as you're creating your website. Make sure you're keeping that in mind as you're developing all this stuff, because that's really important. If you're making stuff for one style, but yet you don't have any interest of working in that type of game, or that's not really what you want to do, you're not going to do it as good. I hate to burst your bubble. You're going to do something better that you love and that you enjoy. And I kind of figured that out not too long ago, sadly, about 2 years ago, and it was, I read a book and called The Dip, and basically the book talked about how, by Seth Godin, it said, there are so many people in the world currently, and with the advent of the internet and all this stuff, you will not be the best at character art, but you might be the best at sculpting hair for characters, in a realistic fashion or something like that. You have to kind of like narrow down what you want to do. You can't keep it very broad. I don't want to be the best character artist in the world. I want to be the best guy at making boots. I want to be the boot guy. They need boots in a game, they call me. Have something like that. And it may take a little bit longer to find a job, but once you find that job, you're gonna be the boot man for a long time. That's good. So again, you want to see what comes up. You want to track that information that you're searching for. I know there's Google Analytics, and there's some other stat tracking website software. If you want tips on that, you can talk to me after. But that stuff is really important. You need to see how many hits you're getting, where you're getting the hits from. That stuff is borderline stalking, but it's actually kind of cool. When you look back at it, it's kind of neat. So I've been using that stuff for about 10 years, and it's awesome. I can see how many hits. I've went from averaging 500 hits a month to over 3,000 on average, which individual hits is okay. And I get a lot of traffic, and as a result, a lot of work through that, a lot of freelance work. So that's something you need to do, is make yourself available, make yourself searchable, because that's what people are going to do if they're looking for whatever role you want to fill. They're going to search that and try to figure that out. And, oh, this person's really good. I Googled, search this person. Let's talk to this guy, see if they can work, remotely or fly them out here or something. So make sure you're one of those people that come up. And you want to figure out how to move up the search engine. You can search that, sadly, and you'll get a list of how to move up search engines. And I'd recommend you do it. You don't have to pay for it, so don't feel like if someone, some company says, oh, if I give them, my social security information, my credit card information, they'll move me up to number 1 on the search engines. They're probably not going to, and you might have trouble paying your rent. But you can Google, or you can search that stuff and try to figure that stuff out. Again, I can give you some tips if you want, if you have individual stuff you want to talk about. So what's the exception here? Is if a certain website, I know, a website like Facebook does not let you customize it that much. It looks like every other page looks, aside from, they make it more every day, but you need to make it look as good as you can. And what I recommend you do is, or customize it as much as you can. I recommend find a brand, shoe brand, coffee drink brand. Go to their whatever page. If you're having trouble, man, what would I do with my, how do I customize my Twitter page or my whatever page? Go look at what some coffee company is doing or some shoe company is doing and see how they customize it and try to mimic that or filter it down to your needs. That's extremely important, is just what would whatever company do, and just pick a company that you want. And you got to think about yourself as a film director. A film director is always concerned about the big picture stuff, and you need to be concerned with the big picture stuff. Overall, how does this feel? Not how does this one little spot feel, but how does this represent me? Does this represent who I am? And does this represent what I want to do? So you need to make sure that you're always, always thinking about that. The other thing is you make these beautiful pieces of 3D art, tangible but not really tangible, because you can't hold them, artwork, and you put them on your website and you're hoping to get a job off that. A lot of times what people do, HR people, art directors, lead artists, other artists at a company might stumble across your site, and they might just right-click and save your image into a local folder, and they, other artists or other people in the company might go look at that later. You have to keep in mind, it might not be that day. They might be in crunch. They might be, they might be working a lot or something. They might not have time to look at it. So they might come back to it later. And then if you don't have your contact information in the image itself, or the file name isn't named something that they know it's you, they're going to have a hard time tracking you down, if there's no way to contact you. So you want to make sure in your image that you're creating, in all your images that you're posting online, you have your contact information. Maybe not your address. That's kind of weird. Just your website name. I use my email just because my email is my website too, so they can figure it out usually. If they can't, I probably don't want to work with them. Because it's not that tough. So make sure you have your name or email or something like that, just not your address or your parents' address. Because, again, that's weird. And You want to make sure that you're including your name in the file name as well. That's important. Some people will change the file names of the folder or of the image that they're downloading. Not all the time are they going to do that. If they're just in a hurry, they're eating lunch at their desk while crunching, they're just going to right-click Save As, right-click Save As, and you might get into a spot where they'll just leave it as the file name. Well, if you don't have your watermark on there, then they have your file name to fall back on. Or maybe they don't even want to open your image. Maybe they just go, oh, Jim Smith, let me Google Jim Smith. And Jim Smith 3D artist, cool, here it comes up. Maybe the image itself got corrupted, but maybe the file name is still correct. So keep that stuff in mind. And you also want to start getting your artwork seen on forums if you want to get it seen on store shelves. A lot of people make these pieces of art and they don't want to get them out there, and they're afraid to show it to people. Yeah, I'm working on something, but I'll show you never. You have to remember, this is a commercial industry. At some point, you want to get paid to make art. You're going to have to produce something, and people are going to want to see it. Get used to that now. Put your stuff online. Put your stuff on Concept Share a lot. Get other students in your class. I've had students in my classes, oh man, I saw what you did that with the week 1 project. That was awesome. That was really cool. How'd you do this thing, It'll start creating buzz in your classes about you, and then it'll start creating, hopefully buzz online. The other thing it does too is if you're posting to online forums and online sites, Twitter, whatever like that, you'll get feedback from other artists you wouldn't have access to. When I post artwork to those kind of places, I've access to artists around the world that I wouldn't have access to normally. And I've actually met a lot of people through that, just me posting artwork, them going, oh, that's neat, how'd you do this? And now I know someone in Netherlands, we've shot emails back and forth 8 times, That stuff is valuable, because you never know when that person works on a project and they go, oh, we need someone to do boots. Oh, we got the perfect boot guy. It's awesome. Let me contact my buddy, Bootman. You also want to be careful of over-watermarking your stuff. And this is a big concern I see sometimes with people doing is, I don't want them to steal my stuff and put it in their game or steal my textures. So I'm going to put a big logo of a pelican, a 50% opacity right over top of it. They're still going to steal it if they want to steal it. I mean, you guys know piracy is going to happen no matter what you do. I would be flattered, just act flattered. If your stuff ends up in a game, put it on your resume. If they steal it and put it on in a game, put it on your resume. You technically worked on a game. Maybe not knowingly. But it's something that it's probably easier for them just to use it as reference. And I see a lot of people over watermarking this stuff, and it gets really hard to look at what's going on. It distracts from the image. If you want to do it very cleverly, like you're doing a tavern scene or something, make one of the signs your name, or make something like that where it's yours in that scene. That's fine. But again, I know a lot of stories about people stealing artwork, even with watermark, and I don't think there's anything you can do to avoid it. So just try to be as easy as you can, and keep the watermarks there. Mine, I think, is in the bottom of all my images, and I just do it like a stripe of gray, and then just my email address. So I always put it on the bottom of my images. Usually with textures, I just put it on the bottom so they can't tile the textures. There's a stripe there. So if they want to paint that out, that's fine, but why don't they just paint the texture? Or hire me, because I work freelance stuff. And you also don't have to be afraid to be creative, like we were talking about with the tavern. Be creative with this. The other thing, too, was you want to keep everything, the consistency, you want to keep that professional across the board. And when you're in Twitter, when you're in Facebook and all that stuff, you want to keep your professionalism consistent with an email to a company. You want to make sure that it sounds like it's the same person. And the other thing with that, too, is make sure you proofread what you're talking about. or what you're saying. You always want to read back once or twice. I always read out loud. I usually read it out loud to my wife, and I'll go, no, this sounds right. She won't even be talking. I'll just be reading it out loud, like a one-way conversation, and I think she's listening, but she's not, and I'll go, oh, no, this is wrong. Let me erase. Because, an example that I did, I applied once to a place that made hockey games, and I'm a huge hockey fan. And the email went something like, I think the art director's name was Bob. I said, hey, Jim. I got him confused with an art director at another company because I was emailing the other company at the same time. Hey, Jim, I'm a big hockey, and I would love to do a part of your team. And blah, 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 and this email went on, and he actually contacted me back, which was amazing. He talked to me. I did an art test for him years ago. It was really bizarre. It was a one time that I really messed up with that stuff, and it's the one time, and it's one time that it actually didn't backfire. Every other time I've done stuff like that, it's backfired. So make sure you're proofreading, because you don't want to be a big hockey. That's very important. Don't be a big hockey. Very embarrassing. The last pillar that we're going to talk about today is usability. So keep it simple. There's a fantastic book, Keep It Simple, Stupid. It's a website design book. That is, some of you might have read it. Read that and apply that to your stuff, because it's really good. Avoid gimmicks. You want to make sure that if your site requires a plugin, or it's through this specific portfolio thing or whatever, that plugin can be accessed by a default brand new computer. And your artwork is the most important stuff here. It doesn't matter if you're using, I got this brand new plugin, plugin X that does this and lets me rotate my model in 3D. It doesn't really matter if it's not showing your artwork off in the best light possible. If the lighting's not as good as you want it, if the textures don't look as good as you want it in your final renders from image or from your engine or from 3D software, make sure your artwork needs to look the best it can. You want to reduce clicks and movement as much as possible. So that's the other thing, is you want to just limit the movement for the viewer. Don't overcomplicate your stuff. Stick to one or two fonts. If you use too many, it ends up looking like a ransom note, which is, it's kind of hard because your eye gets confused. Your eye doesn't know where to go, and your eye's kind of bouncing all around the page. And avoid light colors for large backgrounds. It can be pretty distracting, unless that's your thing. If that's your thing, then go with it. If you found a way to make it work, a color scheme, a palette that makes it work, then go with it. No one wants to buy anything dirty. Don't overcomplicate things with 18 different fonts. Looks dirty, and people don't usually want to buy dirty stuff. Just dirty game art, grime everywhere. Which is odd. But you make sure that you keep everything real clean. My mother actually just bought my kids a Valentine's Day present, and got them a stuffed animal in a box, and it came with some stickers. And there were no stickers on the box. And the first thing my son did was take off all the stickers and put them on the box. Now, if that would have been done at the store, she would not have bought that, or my son would have been upset, they used the stickers. They would have done the same thing that he did with them, but they used them. So you don't want to do that, because no one ever wants to buy anything dirty. And again, if you have a plugin that, plugin X lets me, my lighting, or they can rotate around the model, that's cool. Is it installed on the computer by default? Or is it something they have to download and install? Do I need to get does the art director need to go get the IT guy to come over and log into their computer and install a plugin just for them to view your work? Well, then probably don't use it if it's going to overcomplicate things. Developers typically only get new machines unless they explode. They only get new machines every console generation for console developers. I don't know about anything outside that space, because that's typically where I work. But so you got to keep in mind that whenever, maybe a year before some game system came out, that's probably the computer those guys are going to be on. So you want to target your specs for your site, for your design, for something like that. If the plugin hasn't been around, if this is a brand new plugin, most likely they don't have it. Or if it's a really dated plugin, there might be a different way to do the same effect. So you want to just kind of keep tabs on that type of stuff. And again, does it slow down your website? Flash is a big thing. Used to be a very big popular thing. I went to a game developer website. I was showing my class something earlier in the week, and it said loading Flash or something, and I just exited out. I was like, we're not going to do this. I don't have 20 seconds to sit here. And they will do the same thing. Companies will do the same thing. They might not even wait for normal HTML sites to load up. You want to treat your website like a store window, like a store display. You want to put the amazing artwork, the best stuff up front. Well, what's your best stuff? Ask your friend. Ask online. Ask your classmates. Put your stuff on a forum. Could you rate my work? What's best to worst? You can do a little checkbox thing if you want. Send out a survey monkey to your relatives. Whatever. Figure out what your best work is. Put it up front. Make those images nice and big. Like those good. Employers in the end are buying you and your artwork, and so you have to make your artwork really presentable. And the first impression is usually going to be the lasting impression. So if they see something that is just amazing, and then a few mediocre things down below, they're going to get stuck on that amazing thing. If they see something that's mediocre up front, and then the amazing stuff down below, the amazing stuff, you'd be surprised, isn't actually going to look that amazing. So you want to make sure that you put that amazing stuff up front, and then the mediocre stuff down below. Sports teams don't start their worst players, they start their best players. It's the same kind of thing. You also want to limit your clicks. Avoid splash pages. You have to ask yourself, with everything you're creating on your site, on your portfolio, your brand and stuff, why? Click here. Why? Do I have to? I don't want to. And that seriously, people will say that I don't want to do this. Delete, close. Can't we just go straight there? If it takes you to if click here to view my model goes to images of a model that you made, just make those up front. Just put those up front. With broadband and internet that we have now, they can handle larger images. So it's something that you need to be thinking about, definitely, is trying to avoid mouse movement, finger movement. I always try to think, could a person get around my site with barely moving? Would they hire me without moving at all? Just someone sends them a link and they click on it once and they go, yeah, cool. Or do they have to scroll down? And if they scroll down, is there a reason to scroll down? Is there a way you can arrange things to cram it into one window? Screen resolutions is something that improves consistently. I mean, phones are getting large screen resolutions now. That's something you need to just take kind of an average. I always go for the least common denominator, so take the smallest screen that you think a developer would be working on and go with that, which probably would be your laptop size. I don't imagine that, most places use desktops and they use larger monitors, 22, 24. So probably your laptop size, if you set it up to look good on a laptop, it's going to look good on a desktop. And mobile versions are handled a little differently, and that's something that you might need a special plugin or something for your, wherever your site is might have a certain version that's mobile only. So you could always use that too. You want to make sure that, this is really cheesy, but this is kind of a thing I live by now, is just ABC. Always be creating. Always be making something. It doesn't matter if you worked on, Game of the Year last year. Well, that was last year. This is this year. You didn't work on Game of the Year this year. So you got to make another Game of the Year. It's fantastic if you made really good art last month. You got to make better art this month, and the month after, and the month after, and the month after. And you got to continue to develop your skills, and the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it. So you want to just keep pushing yourself. You want to always be working on your stuff. You don't want to ever rest on well, I'm that guy that made that one thing that one time, and it's awesome. You want to say, yeah, I worked on some junk a while ago, but I'm doing this now, and I'm more excited about this now. You also want to check your ego at the door. You may be the best in your apartment complex or in your class or in your university or wherever at Boots, but when you get to company X, you have to assume that you are the worst person at Boots, and you want to learn everything you can about Boots from everyone. And you just have to have that attitude where you're thirsty for knowledge, basically, and you have to act like a sponge. Don't go in and, where's my coffee, art director? You have to be a little humble and keep yourself humble. Some of the best artists I know in this industry that I've personally met, one comes to mind, the guy is the most humble person in the world. I remember going, that's not it? What? And I mean, he worked on stuff that I played when I was in middle school and stuff. And the guy, hey, what's up? How's it going, guys? It was a really nice place. He was really friendly, and it blew my mind. I've met other people that have done fantastic stuff and have giant egos and everything in between. The coolest people that I would want to work with are the guys that are really humble and just want to make awesome stuff, are only concerned with the end product, making awesome stuff, and not look at how awesome I am, but look at how awesome whatever we're doing is. Also, you guys know a web guy, right? You guys know a web guy? Somebody? I got a web guy. Everybody's got a web guy. You need to be your own web guy. That's something I hear a lot is, oh, I'm not doing my site. I got my roommate, my brother. I got a web guy, buddy. No, it's really easy. My mom made a website for pictures and stuff. You can be your own web guy. It's perfectly fine. You may not hit a home run with your first design. That's where the iteration comes into play. Iterate on your first design. Take a second design, version 2.0. Go to version 3.0. It'll usually be pretty good. But be your own web person. Don't ever say, oh, no, I got to wait to talk. I can't get this stuff online because I got to talk to so-and-so about getting my work online. Make sure you're your own web guy. So just to kind of sum up, I guess, some general don'ts. Avoid pre-made web designs, website designs, templates, as much as possible. Again, you may not be able to, on Tumblr book, all I can do is customize the color. That's all you can do. Your avatar and your color, that's good. Do the most you can do with whatever site. Avoid multiple fonts, confusing color choices. There's some really good websites for color palettes. If you need help on that stuff, again, you can just ask. I can give you some tips on that stuff. And you want to treat everywhere like a semi-professional environment. So, you want to treat everywhere you are online just like you would if you're going to apply for a job. Because essentially you are when you're putting your stuff online, on a forum, wherever. And don't stop creating and iterating ever. The way I have my current portfolio, the way I have my stuff set up, it will change in a year, I promise. It will be, I'll look back and go, oh my God, I can't believe I spoke on that. That's the worst. The design's horrible. What was I thinking? It's okay. It's okay to iterate on that. It's okay to make mistakes. It's how you pick yourself up after those mistakes and how you react after those mistakes. I think that's the really important part. Some do's, keep your presentation consistent. Stay consistent across the board. You want to make sure that, again, every place looks the same. And you also want to make sure that your artwork is traceable back to you. You want to make sure that people know who made it, how to find you, how to track you down, how to hire you. Because you're the boot man. They want to know where to find the boot man. You got to make sure they know. Where's the email address or whatever. And search engine yourself and your career. And figure out how to move up the list. That analytics stuff is really important. And I don't think a lot of people put enough weight in that. And that's something I'd recommend start out doing now. And it might not be very many. You'd be surprised in a couple of years what you're getting. It'll help you. It'll help you figure out, oh, they're going to this page the most, or they're going to this image the most. Well, I didn't really like doing that, but I'm getting a lot of hits off that, so maybe I'm pretty good at that. You'll help figure that stuff out, and the analytics, the stat tracking software, the website stat tracking software will help with that. And also get online, active online, whether through Concept Share or through Polycount.com or any of those kind of places. Get active online because that stuff is really, really important. That's where those places are and seeing the people that are really good online are the people that are going to be able to get jobs because they're always pushing themselves. They're listening usually to feedback, and you want to have that attitude too. And keep creating too. Just keep creating. Don't ever stop creating artwork. That is extremely important no matter where you are. Again, the computer, the software, all that's the tablet, all that stuff, it's yours. You own it. It doesn't disappear. And I see a lot of people, it just disappears. Don't let it disappear. Keep using it. Get your, make sure you're using it. So I guess as a final wrap-up, it's surprisingly easy to set yourself apart. You just have to be prepared to do a little brainstorming and iteration, and know that it's attainable. It may not come overnight. This kind of thing is something that might take a while. I know my stuff personally isn't where I want it to be, but it's a lot better than it was 3 years ago. 6 years ago, 9 years, it's improved over the years, and it's continually, I'm continuing to evolve it. And just treat everything like it's professional. Know that people aren't expecting to hire robots, keep that in mind too. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to tweet how awesome your burrito was. But don't make that the only purpose, use it for good, not evil. And again, use it to your advantage for good and not evil. And iteration is good. I see a lot of people getting afraid of iteration. Oh, I don't want to change it. I worked so hard on it. Cool. You learned a lot from it. Now work more, and you'll learn more. Keep pushing yourself. Your artistic tastes will develop over time, and they'll get better. So don't stop now. Keep developing those skills, and keep pushing yourself. That's about it, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I think we have a microphone. My contact information is up there. It's J Parrott, 2 R's, 2 T's, 3 L's at fullsail.com. And for a larger selection of portfolios, there's a good link there. It's tinyurl.com/BKOHDMW. And that's a good link, a link to polycount.com, which has it's a whole thread of portfolios to maybe get a start at looking. Just click around. There's a fantastic list of portfolios. And then the 2 books I talked about, or actually one I talked about, Seth Godin, The Dip, and Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers, The Story of Success. Those 2 I read probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and they really changed my artistic life, I think, and really focused me on what I wanted to do. And then the 2 good websites are videogame-art.com and polycount.com. They're 2 good art websites to look at to get a barometer of what should I be doing, I think. And I think those 2 places are a really good place to start.